Hey everyone, I'm Patrick Brown. This is part 4 of the Miles Morales tutorial. This is the final art, but I'll show you how to make this from scratch. In the first tutorial, I showed you how to go through the rough sketching stage, and in part 2, I showed you how to do the inks, which will hold the character together and make it look bold. And in part 3, we did the full color Miles Morales character with all the fine details. In this one, we're going to be doing the background for the Miles Morales piece. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to cover a lot of different stages through this. We're going to be covering the stages that we already have with Miles, but this time in a background setting. So there's a whole different realm to it. It's crazy. But what I mean is we're going to be going through sketching, we're going to be going through inks, and then colors at the end, and detailing as well. As you can see, this is where we're at so far with Miles. The pose, the rendering, the webs, it's all done. If I hide Miles, you can see the rough guide that I wanted to have for a background. If I hide that gray, we'll just see it a bit better there. It's quite rough. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is I'll show you how to set up a perspective ruler. Okay, so I just quickly want to explain how the perspective ruler will work in Clip Studio Paint. It's a really handy tool, and this is what I use to create my backgrounds. So over here, I like to use the brush, just the normal default brush that is set in Clip Studio Paint. And here is the perspective ruler. It's actually usually hiding in, it will look like this. It'll be in the line tool, and then there's a subfolder there, or yeah, with the option for a ruler. And we want the perspective ruler. So I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to start laying out some lines like that my lines will snap to. So I'll start with a vertical one. Let's go really quite vertical, looking down. And the reason I zoomed out is it's just easier to judge and kind of see what I want. The closer you go in, it's a little harder to judge, but this is just rough. This is just to show you how it all works. And I'll set another ruler to probably just, like a side perspective one. So that's the left vanishing point there. You can see it there, the little vanishing point. Let's do another one over here on the right. So you just click it and then hold, and I'm just dragging it out. And you can click anywhere that you think you want the next one to go. So I probably want to match it, so I'm going to just try and have mine going from there to there. So it's very similar. So now I have a left vanishing point, I have a right vanishing point, and I've also got one that goes all the way down there, and that's the third one. So now that I've got that set up, you can see over here it's on its own layer, that's the ruler. And if I hide that, it won't work. And if I make it visible, then it will work. You don't need to touch that, just as long as it's there, it's active. So the new layer on top, I'm going to use that to draw on. So I will use the brush, or the pencil that I had, just set it to black. Now another little trick is this little button here. You're going to become very familiar with that button there. As long as that's on, everything will snap to the lines like so, like that. But if it's off, nothing snaps, you see? I'm free. Everything's free. And that's actually really handy because sometimes you're going to want to quickly just get off that ruler. So I need to have that on and active, and I'll just show you really rough. Let's make a building. So let's just have one that goes down. So if it was really big, let's just have it up here. There we go. And then you'll have that corner. So there's one, and then let's just say we had a few more lower ones just here. And what if you had another one over this side and it's a little bit bigger? That kind of thing, And then you can just keep kind of sketching away and adding to it. And everything that I'm doing is snapping to the guides, which is really, really handy. And I love that. And then you can start adding all your little details in, like the rooftop thing, or you can even start drawing in windows. It's like freehand drawing, but you're actually doing buildings that are set to a perfect perspective. So yeah, that's what I wanted to quickly show you. Now let's get started. So, and this is such a good way for drawing. And as you can see, I can get my thin to thick. Like if I hold it really hard, So if I lightly press and then darken it up, press really hard, we get that pressure sensitivity all the way through this. You can put a little bit more of finesse into it and really make it look like something special. So let's start. Now that I've set up my ruler, I can start sketching out some buildings. I really wanted to have one here where you can see it nice and close. So I'm just going to quickly rough out what I was thinking, and it was going to be something like this. And I really want to have, just to hold the picture together, I want to have one up there, over here. Do something like this. Probably throw one in there. And maybe a nice big one up here. Let's just throw one in here. Something like this, you know, bit of a big building up the back. Maybe we'll put one in here somewhere. And as you can see, you can kind of like really start shaping things together when you get a bit of a feel for it. I've actually thrown together some references. So this is just some photos of New York City. And just go and have a look in Google, you know, and just study some backgrounds. I was really kind of drawn to this one when thinking about this piece, because I really like the angle and you get a clear look at the top of the buildings and also the perspective coming up, which I really like. And also this one here. This is one of the main ones I think I got some inspiration from when doing this picture. So what I'm going to do is let's get this, double click, and let's just put that one there so we can check it out, and we'll just keep sketching away. So now it's coming together, I can start to see a bit of a structure of the city and how my buildings might work. I think I'm happy with that kind of setup. So now it's time to just kind of build on it and shape it a little bit more. I have to sculpt it, try and make it look a little bit more like this. I'm trying to think of, you know, things on the top of buildings such as vents and these boxes that'll be shaped on top, and even little bits that might pop out of the side or bottom of buildings, all these different levels. The big part of Spider-Man is the city of New York. You really want to put your effort into that city as well and make it count. Otherwise, like a half-assed kind of city that might lack detail, it can also drag your picture down. So it really pays off to kind of get into that and make sure you put all the detail in, all these windows, everything like that. So, okay, and once we have the overall, all the blocks kind of laid out like this, I can now start going in and putting in a little bit more detail. Really try and structure them a bit better. At the moment it's just like a bunch of blocks. So let's try and fix that up a little bit more. And I'll just show you what I'm going to do. So what I'm thinking about now is I'm looking at my references. This is the reference that I'm mainly looking at here. So for tops of buildings, things like that. So I'm going to put that there. And now I can just, you know, get a bit more of an idea of what I'm trying to do. So I might even add like a bit of a box here. You know, just trying to think of things that could be different. I might even add it like probably here. Just roughly thinking. Let's turn it into like an aerial or a radio tower thing. And then, you know, I could start just getting rid of these parts and have it go quite high, just like this. So there's the aerial, to zoom it, yeah, it's a bit big. It's really big actually. So I'm really glad I had that on a new layer. So I'm just gonna size that right down. I'll show you down here. I think I really want to have a water tower here. So again, I've unsnapped that. Get my brush out. When I get to doing this properly, I'll be using an actual circle, so it's perfect, but let's just rough it out. And I'll probably add a bunch of smoke and steam and things like that, so it should work out alright. Snap that back on, and I'll start to put the structures underneath it. It'll probably be much taller than this. Oh no, that's probably about right. Okay, what else can we add? So I really need to kind of think about what else we can put in. Let's start putting in some rooftops. So I need to start thinking about rooftops and things. A good thing to think about here as well is let's start adding a few more details, like, you know, entrances where you would come up from a staircase and come out onto the rooftop kind of thing. So let's add a few of those things in here, and vents and things like that. Okay, so I'm happy with the shape of the buildings now. They're all put together. We've got all those little notches and, the little boxes and the, you know, I'll probably add a few more water towers and things like that. But the next step will be the windows. Let's try and fill out the windows. So there's a few different ways we can do this. You can still use the perspective grid or the perspective ruler, and maybe do something like, I'll probably definitely do it for this bit here because it's just a little bit. And what I'm thinking about here when I'm adding these extra little lines next to it, it's kind of, because it's beveled in, so I want to have the cement part that's out, and then the window is kind of in a little bit further, so we're just having that little dip in, and you'll see what I mean when I'm done. And I'm actually going to do an extra layer when I do the horizontal one. So if I was going to go like this, and remember it can stay quite rough, you know, and then what I would do, just to clean it up a little bit, we're going to select those little bits with the marquee lasso and just delete. Yeah, so you can do it that way, or, so on my references here, I've just had a quick look, especially here. I'm just looking at the windows and how they are. So when I zoom in, you can see what I mean about windows are kind of beveled in a little bit more. So they're kind of, the wall is risen out, the windows are kind of tucked in a little bit more. So you get that kind of 3D little what do you call it, level that goes in. So I'll be trying to achieve that as well with each window. And every building has kind of different types of windows, so I'm just kind of keeping that in mind as well. So I found some flat looking window options here. So let's look at this. So I'm going to grab all of this section. I'm in Photoshop, by the way, and I'm just going to lighten it up, probably just the highlights. Paste this into Illustrator. Doesn't need to be that big. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the opacity down quite a bit on this layer, and I'll use it as a guide. So let's just go up to these windows and we'll just make a few square, like rectangles. Take the stroke down a bit. And then let's get another rectangle down here, and we'll try and do that little ledge. All right, we'll work with that for now. So I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to expand it all so it makes the whole stroke just one thing. Combine that, there we go. Okay, now let's try and copy it across. Hold two of them, and then bring them down to here. And then I'll press Ctrl D, and we can do that a couple more times. I'm going to get all them. Now I'm going to go across, copy that gap. Now I can do it again, Ctrl D. And now that we have the full set now, so I will copy that, paste, and pixels are fine. Just call this Windows. and I'm going to duplicate it and hide the original so that I have a backup. So let's just have a look. So if I go Control T for transform, now let's put it down here somewhere. Now it's very, very easy to lay these out. All you have to do is match your perspective. So I'm trying to look at my building here, and I'm just matching that. I'm holding Control as I'm grabbing each little nodule on the ends. So holding Control and then holding these, you're actually able to do that. And then if you hold Control on this one and Shift, it'll snap to that line. It takes a bit of practice, but yes, I want to try and Control and Shift so I can get that same perspective. I'm looking at this here, so I'm kind of looking at that and matching it. So now it's exact. It's exactly the right shape, and I made it so it hugs to the edge, so it's easier for me to judge. You can see here this line isn't right, so down a bit more. There we go. Now it's right. So now that that's set to each corner and it is exactly the right perspective, I can hold Shift and move each edge in. Actually, you don't even have to hold Shift. So now I'm just trying to look at the edges. I want to make sure there's a bit of a cement edge for each side of the building. I think that's it. Boom. So get rid of that now. There we have it. So that's a way to lay out windows, and I think that works really well. It's a good time saver. So I'll lay out another version. So I'm going to copy this backup version again. Start doing the same thing. Free transform. There we go. Now if I go down here, it's okay to stretch it down. It's not going to stay like that, just so I can get this angle right. Now one thing to keep in mind here, I need to make sure that these windows line up and match each other, because you have to think of them as floors. So there you go, one building is done. One thing I didn't keep in mind is the windows here that are going to keep going. So I'm just going to duplicate this one down, and all I want is these couple here. There you go, you can see I've just kept them ones there, just for that extra little bit down the side. There we go, merge all those. But what we need to do now is, I'm going to lay out all the windows of every building. So let's do some more. So I'm actually just looking at an old background picture that I've done before for Marvel. And I don't know, I just like to look back at these. I want to kind of copy that one there, I think, for the this big building here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just lay out a rectangle all the way down to the bottom with a nice shape, probably like that. Yep, nice and tall. And I'm just going to make sure, yep, it's just the stroke, so that's good. Alright, so I'm happy with that. What I'll do is I'm actually going to merge that right now, so expand, and then I'm going to select this one and get rid of that chunk out of the side there. And then I'll just duplicate that. Okay, so select all, expand, and merge. So now I have that part of the building which I wanted. So slide that across. How much gap do we have? There we go. Duplicate, grab them all, copy, back to Photoshop, paste. Yep, and then I'm going to free transform again. This is the fun part. Match that angle. You're allowed to, you can easily just bring it out there if you need to match angles another way. Okay, that's fine. So now I can bring that down to wherever it can't be seen anymore, that building. And then I'm going to give it some space on top. So I'm going to use that. I'm happy with that now. And then just get rid of all those extra bits that I don't want anymore. And I can recycle these for another building somewhere if I like. Now I can start shaping it onto the other side of this building. So there you go, there's that building and that building, they're done. So to save you a lot of time, I'm going to go through and just fill out a lot of the rest. I'm going to do all the other windows now because it's very boring, and then we'll get to the fun stuff. Okay, so I've laid out all of the windows now. Took a long time, but I got there in the end. So you can see now they're all laid out thrown them all in, and basically that was just using the perspective free transform kind of thing. So if I just look over here at Illustrator, where I created all these different types of windows, so you can see here I had like an example in the back of something that I found online, and I'll just make some windows, duplicate it, copy it over as I already mentioned, and then we just free transform it and fit it to the side of the building. So here's another different kind of window, and then I've got these kind of windows, these kind of windows. I made all different types, so it's a good way to do it. See how I can add all these details in here. Can you imagine doing that by hand with the perspective grid in Clip Studio? It would take forever. So this is definitely a lot handier. And these kind of ones, I've made these and more, as you can see. Even just some lines here for some distant ones, quite simple. This one was a bit more intricate for closer buildings that are going to be seen a little bit closer. And then stuff like this, yeah. So there you go, and that's how I do that. So it's a good guide for you, and hopefully that helps when you want to do your own background sometime. All right, so the next step is, now that all the windows are done, I need to get my rough layer, and I'm going to take the opacity down. I'm just going to hide that post for a little bit. I'm going to keep the windows in. I think they're a good guide for me, but yeah, I'm taking that down probably a fair bit so I can really start doing the outlines. And I'll put the outlines layer above everything. So outlines, I'll be using a pen. So I like to use this at a nice size with just black on the G Pen, and that's just the set defaults. Here's all these stats in here, I think, and yeah, that's just all the default stuff. So yeah, basically now I'm just going to go and look at the roughs and try and just neaten it up a little bit. So as I'm going, I'm just making sure that I press quite hard. I really want to get some bold lines, because once it's zoomed out, you know, it's quite distant really, and once Miles is in there, I'm just kind of looking at his lines as well compared to the background one. Yeah, I'm happy with that kind of thickness. So now that I know what kind of thickness I'm going to go for, I can just go absolutely nuts and just keep going through, trying to match that, you know, I want to make sure it's all the same. Another thing I should probably mention as well, I really only like to have the thickness on the outside of every building, so it's kind of just all held together. But then as I go on these inner bits, I'll show you, I probably wouldn't go like that thick. I'd probably go more like something like that, just so it's a little bit neater on the inside, not too bold and messy like that. So like I said, so just like this and across, and then as I'm on the outside, it'd be way thicker like that, and then down here a bit thicker. So now I'm kind of relying on my perspective grid now. We're going to just kind of trust that, and I need to just go through and just make sure that I'm happy with all these outlines. We've got a good guide here. I've got my roughs, they're all laid out. So it's really quite simple from here with the outlines. So I'm just going to jump ahead and do all of these, and then we'll get straight into the coloring. Okay, now everything is complete. I've done all the outlines, so all the buildings are all laid out now. It's all there, took some time, but we got there. So now we need to do the flat colors, okay? So it's pretty straightforward. A good way to do it, as I've always done before, I'm gonna select the sky area there. Control Shift I, and I'm gonna invert that selection. And then I'll go right to the bottom, make a new layer. Put it right at the bottom. I'm just going to call it fill. And that's just going to be all the buildings just put together and paste. Fill. There we go. I'll just make it a little bit brighter. It's just a medium kind of mid-tone to start off with. That's what I like, just right in the middle. So it's not too light, not too dark. And then I'll chuck the sky in the back. Just think of something that's like a nice blue. And I'll just put that in the back there. Just throw something in there so it just feels a bit better for me when I'm working. I might even just lighten that a little bit more because I don't want it to be too dark. Yeah, basically what I want to do now is just fill out each building block and just make them a big flat color. So I'm going to look at this reference here. I've grabbed a few images from Google. This one down here is actually a background I've done before for Marvel. You know, since I've done this before, I might use that again as a reference. And what I mean is just, I'm going to sample each of these building colors like this, like just each of those tones, and especially the blue building. You got like a creamy colored building, you got a red building, a brown building. And I'm just going to like, just sample each of those. It's just going to give me a little bit of a head start rather than sitting there and just thinking about different colors. You know, and I'm also going to look from the game, I'm going to look at all these buildings. This is a good reference. And this is just to get an idea of color tones for all the building types. I really want to have that New York feel to it, you know, give it that kind of New York touch. And to get that, you kind of have to have all these building tones just right. So each building I'll probably make a new layer for. So I'm going to make a new layer, and let's just grab maybe the first foreground one. And I'm just going to go from there and just start filling out all the different buildings and flat colors. And I'm just going to select with the marquee tool all the way around. Let's just go this nice creamy kind of brown color. So I'm just selecting that, and then I will fill. There we go, on that layer with the selection. And I'll make another layer underneath since that's on top. And we'll just do the next one. So let's jump ahead a little bit and we'll get to the next bit. Okay, so I've laid out all of the flat colors now. All of the buildings are just kind of different. They have their own different shades of a color, color tones, browns, we got some reds. Got to really mix it up a bit and make it feel like how New York City is, because I've been looking at these references here. You can see all the different buildings are usually a different color. This was a good one for me to understand how the rooftops might work, because that was one thing I didn't really think of. So yeah, you look inside the roof and of the tops, and you can see sometimes there's usually a grey tone. Even if there's a reddish building, you might have a grey top of the roof with white trimmings or something like that. So I've really kind of tried to think about all of that, and I've put them all on their own layers as well. So where are we? So I've got a folder here called buildings, and if I zoom out and show you, so every layer is its own building. When I get to the shading, I can really easily just control click, and then I have a selection of a building, and I can easily start to just use the burn tool or something to like darken edges, and it's just a lot quicker to get a hold of it rather than having to reselect it with the marquee tool again. You know, if it was all flat, then yeah, I just find that easier to make them all separate buildings. Now that all the flat colors are laid out, I'm going to move on to the windows. We need to make sure the windows can be worked with as well. So I'm going to zoom in and just show you. So what I've been wanting to do, it's going to be a little messy, but I'll have to tidy it up. But basically I'm going to get the magic wand tool. Let's just click on the empty space around them and see what happens. Now this is going to help me select the majority of all the windows that I've done. So let's just do a control invert, And I'll need to just kind of bring that selection just in one little bit. And then underneath the Windows layer, let's just make a layer there and just call it, I'll just make it like a nice bluish gray, and I'll just fill that in, and we'll just call that fill or Windows fill. Oops. All right. So as you can see, it's done its job, and that's actually a really quick way for me to select all the buildings I need. But yeah, like this one did a pretty good job here, and all we'll need to do is just go through and start tidying up parts that it's missed, and that's the only little bit that will take some time. It's basically I want to get rid of these parts, and you can see it's also made some mistakes. Like, I don't know why, but it's selected all this part here. I didn't know that was part of the Windows layer. But yeah, I'll go through, I'll tidy them up, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I've done all of the windows now. They're nice and tidy. It's just one solid color of a shade of blue, but I'm about to fix that. We need to change it so it's a bit more alternative and mixed up between different buildings. I got a bit lazy over here. I haven't done that building yet, but that's okay. I'll do all that at the end. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a new layer over them, and I'm just going to start throwing in a few different shades and different tones of colors. So I'm going to use my brush, just like a solid, maybe just a solid brush like that. And yeah, I might just grab a few different colors. So this brown, I might even just grab that and just start kind of going over and I'm just lightly touching a few different windows. Not all going to be the same, so it'll be kind of like this and this, and see what I mean? See how it's not all the same? And this could reflect, this could be reflections of other buildings. Like, could be darker down here with the brown because there's a brown building in front of it. Things like that I'm just trying to keep in mind. But I still want to keep some of that blue tone in because that's going to resemble maybe the sky or something like that. But yeah, this just helps make it look a little bit more realistic rather than just one solid. So if I grab this creamy color here, I'm just going to see what it looks like because this building here really shows their opposite. So if I just wipe down like that, as if that is a reflection of this building, I think that's going to work out all right. And this one's like a darker brown, so I'll add to this a little bit more. So that reddish tone, I might even make that quite strong in that part there. And this white one especially, whoops. So if I had that kind of here, as if it's reflecting, you can see what I mean. So yeah, there we go. I've just made it so our windows kind of reflect the color tones of the other buildings. And what I want to do here is kind of think of, I'm just looking at references here of other buildings, and if you look, some of them have window shades and things like that kind of down. I think I want to try and get that effect, especially down here. You can see all these windows have shades on them and like blinds that are being pulled down. Here you go, there's a good example. So some windows are like completely whited out and some are half whited out. So I'm going to try and achieve that. So if we go to our buildings, and I've just got that brush again, just any kind of brush, especially here is a good example. And I might just grab this kind of grey, light grey tone. Now remember, I'm on a new layer, so it won't matter if I make a few mistakes. So I'm just going to go through and just start just filling some in and just making it look a little bit more realistic. I don't have to do every window, just a fair few of them. And let's just keep going through until I have a few done, and you'll see what I mean. And there you go, that's all it really needs, is just a few windows, especially mainly the ones that will have windows like this or this. I probably wouldn't do these ones because I think they're going to be more like business type of buildings. You just kind of look at the style of building and I think it's more of a corporate business building, especially this big tall one. I probably wouldn't have blinds and things like that in there. I'll just deselect that so you can see the difference. So that's without and that's with. So that's definitely a lot better. Okay, so now that we have done all of that, the next thing I'm going to do is the shading. So we've got all them flat colors now, that's quite nice. Let's just start with selecting some of these buildings and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. So now that each building is selected on its own and it's all on its own layer, I can easily grab them. So let's say this one here. Now I'm in the burn tool. So just in the burn tool there. And then I will bump that up a bit. It's a nice soft brush and I've selected the highlights. So, and then just go through and I'm just going to just lightly brush over so that we can give it some more depth, just a little bit. But yeah, like this one down here, just start burning the edges on that one to make it give it some depth. And what's next? This one over here. And so I'll just go through all of the buildings and just give them a little bit of a shade and you'll see how they'll look after I'm done. I will just show you what it looked like before I finished all that. So that's before and that's after. I'll just zoom in a bit more. So before and after. So you can kind of see that it's already bringing a lot of depth to it and that's just using a soft burn brush. So just darkening all of those layers just at the bottom tip so that they look like they're coming out of the shadows a little bit more. The next part of the shadowing is the main ones because these are big blocks, so you got to think of them as big blocks. So one side is going to be darker. The way I'm going to do this, I'm going to actually make a new layer over all of them, so probably just under the outlines. I'll make a new layer there called darken and I'm going to set that to multiply and that way it'll adjust itself to each color that is underneath and it'll just blend with every building. And basically what I'll do is I'll just select my shadow where I want it to go. So I'll just start with this side of the building here. Okay, so shadows a little bit more on the blue side, more of a medium tone, and I'm just going to fill that, see what it looks like. See, I think that's a bit too much blue, a bit too saturated, so I'm just going to half that. I'll just quickly grab that, sample that color. Okay, so that's the color I'm going to use. I'm happy with that. Set it back to multiply. So that's kind of probably how dark I would like it. The best thing is if I'm not happy with the darkness, I can just lighten it up by taking the opacity down. But for now, let's just leave it like that. So I'm going to go through every building and I'm trying to think of my light source here. This is a very important part. I need to try and work out where the sun is coming from. Let's just figure that out first. I've already established that it's definitely coming from the top left somewhere, but I need to know exactly where so I can cast my shadows. You know, the way I've rendered Miles, we obviously have the sun in the top left coming down, so the shadows would really be a bit more like this. So it's going to be from the... Now this is the tricky part because I need to try and work out a way to cast these shadows. Now a cool trick for this, because we need to cast it, I'll show you. New layer, what we'll do is we need to try and cast the shadow of this top box onto the roof. So I'm making a selection of the top of this. I'm on a new layer, let's set it to multiply. So fill that, but then we'll move it down. So move it down to where the ground would be. So that's down to the level of that, and then just shuffle it over to where I think it needs to be angled, so where the sun might be. And I'm going to say about there. And then I'm going to get this corner and touch that corner because that's where it's casting to. Fill that. And then delete that part there. And you can see now that's the shadow perfectly cast from that building. Now take notice of this angle here. That's the angle that the sun is casting, and I need to remember that all the way through. So even from this building across, let's do it again. All that is under a shadow. So cast the shadow there like that, and now you can see how that's going to work. Same here, there's a little ledge here, so I need to think about that, which is like this. There we go. And fill that in. And then fill. Same here. And then this is an interesting section. And like I said, just keep going through, and I'm going to keep trying to cast all these shadows until we have all the shadows laid out. And I'll show you a few tricks on the way if I come across them. And another thing I need to think about is the way that some buildings are going to cast a shadow over the others. So this is where you have to be quite bold and just go for it, because I know that it kind of sucks when you have to put a big dark shadow over something that you've just put all this detail into, but it's going to really add to the image completely. So you have to kind of trust shadows. So look at this big brown building here. That's actually going to cast a nice, really big shadow over this one over here. So I'm going to bring it right up, and I need to kind of be a little bit more confident, and then we might just stop it about here. So fill that in. So do you see what I mean? We can really cover that building there, and it's okay, that's totally fine. There's also this giant building which would cast a big shadow over it, probably, and it's probably going to cover a lot of those other buildings in the back there as well. Alright, and I'm just going to fill that. Okay, yes, so I've figured out what I'm going to do. It's just going to be like this, quite dark. Like I said, I need to be quite bold and just think about it and just put it in. So I just need to keep going through, adding some more now, and thinking about the lighting while I'm doing it. Okay, so I've done all the shading now, so you can see all the solid shading of the buildings, and this is what really will hold the picture together and just make it seem, you know, 3D. This is what really brings it to life. It's just those casting those shadows. You know, that's without and that's with, so you can just see the difference just by adding that, just by adding those shadows to it. What we need to do now is probably just adjust the top a little bit, you know, the rooftops. So again, I'm going to get the burn tool and just kind of go around some of those edges and just soften them up a little bit, and just a little bit more there. There you go, so you can see the difference there in this one especially. I'm going to actually get the dodge tool and then lighten up all the other ones. So if we get that now, so get the dodge tool, and I'll set it to probably mid-tones, and then I'm going to brush over the bits, because you've got to remember the sun is hitting the rooftops here. But another thing I want to show you is, so I have my darkened layer here, but let's do another one above, set to screen. And this is going to be for the lighting. So I'm going to go through like something like this. You know, if I just grab this section of the water tower, and I'll get a nice brush, maybe, yeah, that one. And we want to try and get a warmer tone, so I'm going to grab this kind of creamy tone here. Whoops. And just kind of set it to quite a light one, so probably like that, a little bit of a warmer tone there. Take it down to about 40%, and I'm just going to go over the top of it like this, and just start laying out a little bit of lighting, and this is really going to bring everything to life a lot more as well. So we're going to have the sun kind of bouncing off this side, so I'm going to grab a nice big chunk of here, but I'm going to start, as the light fades off to the side, I'm going to make these little strokes a little singular, so it really looks like there's panels in here, kind of like I did here with the shading, you see? Make it nice and big, and we'll just see what it looks like when I fade over it. Yep, that's alright. And you know, as I go, I can just keep trying to lighten up certain areas, and if I go freehand, it's going to give me a nice artistic kind of look, which is pretty cool. If I want to go a little bit different, I can just grab some of the corners and edges, kind of lightening the rim of it, so do that. You can see these water towers up the back are just real minimal. I'm just doing little strokes, still adding a little bit of lighting to it, but just not worrying too much about it. And now I'm just kind of going freehand, and I'm just highlighting some edges with like a brush, and just kind of scribbling a little bit more like this as well. So that's okay, just add a few more scribbles and touches on the edges like this, and you're going to really add to the detailing on that as well. So alright, so I'm pretty happy with this so far. I think that's going to be alright. So the next thing I can do is probably start thinking about, well, let's do some textures. I'm just going to throw in a few rough textures over these buildings up the front to really bring it to life a little bit more. So I went on Google and I just found a brick texture of a building wall, which is pretty good. I'm just going to size it up because I want to make sure the resolution's okay once I do my adjustments. But basically, let's just grab it, shrink it down to a nice size like that. Probably play with the levels a bit, we'll make it a little bit stronger. Yep. And then duplicate it, so just copy it across and duplicate it again. And basically every time I'm duplicating these, I'm merging them together. It's just going to save me heaps of time. So, and then I'm going to do it downward. What I want to do now is, let's just duplicate that, and I want to just try and see if I can put a nice filter on it so it's not so realistic. I don't want it to look super real. I've got it set to cutout, so that's good. But yeah, this is actually looking a lot more cartoony. There we go. If I simplify the edges, it's really going to bring it up a bit more. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to press OK. You can see the difference. I've got my texture, so I'm going to just grab it, drag it over to our file. We only need it to be about there, depending on where I'm using it. So just take it down a bit to start with, and I'm going to put it above the building layers under the top parts. There we go. Alright, I always duplicate my layers, so I'm duplicating it to keep the backup, and then I'm going to do what we did with the windows but with textures. You can see what I'm doing, a free transform, and I am assigning this to the side of the building with the same perspective. Okay, so that's fitting now, that's nicely. I think I'm just looking at the size of the bricks. It's a little hard to judge because it does get pixelated, but yes, I need to stretch them out to the sides a bit more, and that's about right, I think. I need to do that for every side of the building, so let's just jump ahead and we'll just do that. Okay, so I've laid out all of the textures now. They're wrapping around the buildings. So for instance, we got the brick wall texture here, one side, and then it's angled perfectly on the other side as well. So, and I've just done it through a few different buildings, not all of them, just a couple of variations. Like I said before, the office buildings and things like that are a different kind of texture, so I'm just going to leave them blank because these are going to be quite subtle anyway. It's just to add that little extra effect. I also went into the tops of the buildings. So see here, I added in a texture for the roofs. So without and then with. And that's really gonna, make them feel like they're weathered, like the tops of the buildings are just a bit mucky and stuff. So what we're gonna do with those, because they're not ready yet, they're just literally just textures that are ready. So you just go onto your layer, that layer mode, and I'm just gonna go multiply. And that's gonna really fit them to whatever's underneath. Play around with the levels, so I really want to bring up the highlights a bit more so that we don't make them look so dark and muddy. And if I really want to make them pop, I think I might actually add a filter, just sharpen. I'm just going to sharpen the hell out of them. So if I zoom in, that's what it was without there, and that's what it is now. I might even crank it right up, and that'll really make the textures stand out. I could even, what would it look like if I doubled up on the filter? Yeah, I like that. But yes, that's the rooftops done. So we just need to do the same for the textures on the buildings. So grab that layer, set it to multiply. Now you can see it's wrapped around and it's done its job. So what if I do that filter again, make it really sharp. Just zoom in so I can see probably a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so that's good. You can see it here. So hide it, and then I'll show it. Now I really want to take this one down to probably about 60%, I think, because I don't want it to be overpowering and ruin all the line work and stuff like that. So I'm going to hide it and then bring it back to have a look. So there we go. So that's done. Now for these ones here, these are the closest textures right here of the bricks. I'm going to make a new layer above, and I'm just going to get maybe just my solid brush, and I'm actually going to start adding in some highlights or details. So I'm going to just grab a sample of that color, and I might just lighten it up just a bit, and then just start drawing over the top. So I'm just brushing and drawing in lines myself now. And this will just make it look a little bit more realistic, and because it's so close, we need to make sure these bricks look like they look good. So now that we have laid this texture down, I'm going to get my brush tool out and start bringing them in as if it's like, you know, and add to this brick texture and really make it kind of look like it belongs, rather than just a slapped in filtered texture or whatever. I want to make it look like it belongs, like it's sketched in. So now that that's all done, we need to make this all fit now, because it's all just rendered and that's it. But I need to think about the weather now. We're going to turn this into a winter scene. We're going to start doing that. But I'm going to save a backup of this first. Alright, so what I need to do is I need to think about a sky, something that we're going to chuck in the back there. I've got a temporary one, which I've got. But let's just have a look. If I just find some nice skies on Google, I'm just going to check out this one and start putting them in and just test it out to see what it might look like, you know. So if I put this one up the back, it doesn't matter if it's realistic, because I'm going to try and see if I can turn it into a bit more of an arty style. It's got the sun up there, and I don't really want the sun seen yet, because the sun is supposed to be kind of above and behind us. So I just want to see what that one looks like. That's pretty cool, actually. I think I like that. And I think that'll be my sky. Now, it doesn't look very cartoony, it's very pixelated, so it needs a lot of work. I'm just going to see what Miles looks like with it there, so I can get a feel for it. Yeah, I think that'll work quite well. So now I have to try and make the background fit with the sky. So that's kind of how I work with it. So we got a lot of yellow, it looks like a bit of a sunset thing. So like I said before, I might have some strong yellows on the highlights, and the darker parts will be more of a purpley bluish tone on the darker shadow parts. So let's try and do that. Alright, so I'm going to do something pretty wild now. I'm going to flatten the entire background. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, so I've got my flattened buildings, and I've got my background behind it. Now, the reason I did that is because this is all done now, it's all rendered. So I basically now need to try and add all these extra effects to it and make it really stand out. So what I can do, just to start making it kind of fit, let's just go crazy with the burn tool for a little bit, and I'll just go mid-tones. So I really want to try and make some things kind of fit a little bit better. Darken that area down there, make it look a bit better. Really darken these buildings down here as well. And then if I get my dodge tool, and I'll just deselect that. I get my dodge tool now, and I'm actually going to get the mid-tones, I think. So as everything goes in the distance, I kind of want to lighten it more. So I'm just grabbing all the mid-tones, just lightening it as it goes off into the distance. So I'll show you what it looks like before I played around with the dodge tool and the burn tool. So that's what it was. That's what it is now. So it's just got that little extra oomph in it. Now it's starting to look like it's got more dynamic or dimension. So that to that, that to that. So you can see the difference already, and I'm just playing around with that. And now what I'll do is control click on the buildings layer, make a new layer above it. Now let's try and, so I'll get the really soft brush. Whoops. We'll get the really soft brush, bump it right up. Now I want to try and grab that purpley bit in the sky, I think. Kind of really just put a bit of saturation in it, not too much. And so with this brush, I'm only going to be fading over these back ones. You see what's happening now? It's kind of adding that distance to it. And the really far away ones, I'm going to go a bit stronger on it. Grab that light blue in the sky and start to kind of add a bit more of that up there onto that building as they get higher up. Maybe grab a bit of that darker orange or whatever it is down there and add it to those buildings. Alright, so deselect. That actually looks quite cool as it is, but obviously it doesn't fit well. So that's on its own layer. Just play around with some color modes and just see what works, really. So just scrolling through them by pressing down. Just seeing what kind of looks better. Soft light's probably the one to go. And that's just really kind of helping it blend with that far background a bit better. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that. So the top one is the strongest, but the bottom, I need to set the bottom one back to real, so normal. And I'm just going to fade that right down so that it is kind of fading off into the distance a bit more. Remember what I said, how I want the shadows to kind of be a bit more of a blue hue, I should say. So if I go into my original background, I don't need to make it visible. And this darken layer, just highlight that with control click, and that's just going to grab all those shadows for me. And I'm just going to see what happens if I just go onto my background where this is the flattened full background. I'm going to press duplicate so it just highlights. It's like I've just copied all the shadows. So you can see if I make a selection, it's just grabbing the shadows now. And that's a good way to muck around with. So it's no different at the moment until I start to do color balance. And we can just see what it looks like with, we'll select shadows. Oh, mid-tones is fine. And just start putting the hue of blue all over them. And just see what it looks like with the strong blue. So now it's making all the shadows really blue, which is good. And then if I want to, I can just hide that a little bit down to 75% with the opacity. And that way it's not so intense. And now it's starting to look like winter a little bit more now. So it's all about just playing around with it, making sure that it's what you want. And let's just see how that looks. There we go. So press OK. So that's before the warmth, and that's after. So it's a bit better now. So if you want to see what it looks like without those bits I just did, let's hide these top two now. So that's what I had just before. And that's new and adjusted now. So before and new. Before and new. Let's just have a look and see what Miles looks like over the top. Yeah, that's gonna work. That's pretty cool, I think. He definitely is getting lost in the background a bit. So what we need to do now is add a really big kind of glow behind him. So if I just get like a yellowy kind of pinkish hue there, make it really big. I need to bring Miles back, and we're just gonna make it really big and just up behind him there. So with and without, you can see he's starting to show now and pop a bit more, which is what we want. And we're not done yet. I still need to add some snow into the background. I need to have a look at some references to see how crazy the wintry look is, because at the moment it hasn't got any winter elements in it. All right, so that's the glow. That's without the glow, and that's with the glow. So we definitely want to go with. Okay, and I also need to kind of darken up the background here of the far cities. make them a little bit more silhouette-y. I've just found some screenshots for the Miles game here. Looks like we really have to try and add a lot of snow to these buildings. So this is from the trailer, and you can see here, especially in this screenshot. But yeah, there's a lot of snow on all the buildings, so I'm gonna be adding a lot like that. But it won't be too bad. And then we really want to get these specks, like the snow in the sky. You see all these specks? Let's do that too. But yeah, you see in the distance here, see how these buildings kind of turn a bit darker and a bit more silhouetted as the sky is a little brighter. So we need to try and do that. Mine's very pale at the moment and very bright. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm just going to darken, might just get like a hue of maybe that dark purple there, set it to multiply, and I'm just going to start burning that in and making it work. So if I hide that one now, that's what it was before. This is what it is now. It definitely feels a lot better. It was definitely way off before. Look at that. So now it actually looks like there's depth and all that. So I might put them in their own layer group and see what it looks like if I just take them down to about 80% or 75. See if I like that more. Yeah, it probably is a bit better if I just, that way it's not so drastically changed. So turn it back just a little, not too crazy. So now that we've got that, and I'm gonna have that glow over the top as well, and Miles. So it doesn't really matter too much, but that definitely helped a lot more there. Okay, so I need to try and fix this sky. The sky is kind of bugging me because it's a photo. What I'll do is I'm gonna go filter, and we're gonna try and turn it into a little bit more of an art styled look, if that makes sense. This is cutout. I don't think cutout's gonna work at all for us in this situation, so I'm gonna try out dry brush. So another cool trick, I could probably go blur, motion blur, set it to the right angle at 140. So set that. Try and add another filter to that and see what it looks like. If I put maybe palette knife on there, see what that looks like, if that'll help sharpen it up a little bit more. Yeah, you can see what it's doing already. I'm gonna get this soft kind of sharp brush. And what I mean is, if I show you this, it's like that. So the softer I press, the lighter it makes an effect, and the harder I press, the darker it goes. And basically I wanna just try and just keep going with this and brush over it. And that's what I want to kind of achieve, is just a bit more of a artistic look to it. Now I need to try and add some snow to the buildings. So I've had a look at these references here of the game, and there is a lot of snow. There's heaps. So I'm just going to try and start slapping it in there and seeing what it looks like. Still trying to keep that comic look as well. So I'll just put that there, and I'll start with this building up top. So I'll just make a new layer, and I'm just going to start drawing. I want a sharp brush because I'm going to obviously make this a bit more comic-like once it's in. Like in this screenshot here, see how thick that is there, that snow? It's right up on the thing. I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to go absolutely ballistic and just make it really blotchy and like it's just packed in there, and just see what happens. Okay, so you can see now, I think that's pretty good. I think that'll work. I think I'm going to darken it a little bit, but put some saturation in. I will make a new layer over it with that brighter color I had and just start going over again as if it's kind of the lighting, you know what I mean? So that way some parts are dark, some parts are light. We kind of want most of it to be bright white. But just this will help me have some shadowing in there as well, which would be good. Okay, so that's pretty good. And if I make a new layer, and we're going to do some outlines on it because it still needs to be a bit more comic-like. And I'm just going to start brushing around the edges so we have a bit of an outline on the snow parts. So basically it'll be like that, the outlines. It'll be, so that's without and that's with. So I'm just doing the edge parts. I don't even have to outline the entire snow, just underneath where it's going to be quite dark and shadowy. And I think that'll look quite nice. So I'll just continue doing that right through and then we'll get some snow going and then we'll just keep going from there. So I've been looking at some references on Google and as well because I think that'll help. The trailer for the game didn't really show too much, but yeah, you can kind of see that rooftops are pretty much fully covered in white. So I'm basically just going to go through and just start just blotching it in everywhere. I might have that silhouette ready so I know where I'm going, but I'm not going to hold back. I'm just going to kind of slap it in and just see how it looks. I'm actually going to put another layer underneath. I think this might work quite well, but I'll take the opacity down to probably 50% and then start doing it again underneath as if there's more kind of snow under. But this time I want to be a little bit more blotchy, I think. And I think another thing that we can do for a layer that goes over the top is just add some sprinkles, I think. So make a new layer over those ones, and I'm just going to go through and just start. Alright, so I have now finished doing all of the snow, so that's all there now. You can have a quick look. I've got it on a few different layers, so underneath I've got that extra white that's kind of faded back with the opacity. Okay, so the snow is done, but I still don't think it looks wintry enough, so we need to make sure. Let's get the specs going. So over here in Clip Studio, I prefer to do my little specs in here. I'm talking about the snowfall that we're going to see through the sky kind of blowing around. There's a brush called Droplet here, and it's in the airbrush section. So down here, airbrush and Droplet. And I really like this one. So if I just push hard, you can see what it does. So it's got a really good variation to it. You can see tiny little specks, and you can also see really big, thick specks. There we go. So that's overall, that's just a smaller, lower amount. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm actually going to take the particle size up and see what that looks like. Yeah, perfect. So something like that, and then I'll put a few more big ones down here, and we're going to blur them. Alright, that should do it. So here we go. I've brought it into Photoshop now, and I'm just going to drag all of these over into Miles's piece. So now they're in their own layer folder, and you can see already it's starting to take effect, so that's good. The ones up the front we're going to keep above Miles, but I think the rest will all go behind, so we're just going to put it all above the snow layer. Either a motion blur maybe. Yeah, that's pretty good. That way it looks like things are kind of moving. I really need to get more of a bluish kind of hue to the whole piece. You see here in this one, I just think that it will look a bit more wintry if I give it a bit more of a blue tone around everything. Color balance, and I'm just going to see what it looks like if I crank up the blues a bit more. And I think this is really going to help a lot. And I'll go to the highlights and even put more blue into those as well. Okay, I really need to make Miles pop now. So I'm going to do another layer style here. And I'm going to go levels. And I'm really going to amp it up. And then I'm going to go some highlights as well. Really bring up them highlights. Now if I hide that, that's what it was. And that's what it is now. So Miles is definitely popping a lot more now. But yeah, there we go. That's it. The Miles piece is now complete. It took way longer than I thought. Sorry about that. It's mainly the background. That's a killer, that thing. But yeah, let's wrap this up now. This piece is now complete. Really glad we went through this whole thing together. This is awesome. So thanks for watching, and I've got plenty more tutorials to come, so stick around.